Hey guys, it's James again. Guess I really don't need this considering I've got like a spit team down here beside me, but oh well. I have listened to the news and watched a lot of things that have been talked about in different controversies. And one of them that I've not seen in a while, but I kind of wanted to talk about it, was about the Pledge of Allegiance. If you might remember when you were in school, that at the front of the classroom every day, there's always a flag, or it used to be. Now I can't say that there is now because it's been a few years since I've been in a grade school or a high school, but the flag hung at the front of the classroom. And with the flag hanging up there, each day everyone would come in and they would say, "I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and for the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all." Now what I've just recited to you was the pledge as I learned it as a kid. The pledge as I learned it when I was young. That pledge didn't always say those words. In fact, the initial pledge didn't say anything like it. It didn't even say United States. In September 8th of 1892, and I'm taking this from a Pledge of Allegiance history website, that's where I got the information from, was originally published in the Youth's Companion, and it was written by a minister, a socialist minister of all things, and his name was Francis Bellamy. And I'm going to read you the pledge in just a few moments, the way he said it in his rendering. And he didn't write it for the United States. He wrote it with the ideology that it could be used for any country to pledge allegiance to any nation. And this is the way it read. "I pledge allegiance to my flag and the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all." And if you notice, under God's not in it. You notice United States isn't in it. Neither one. It was not written for our type country. It was not written for a specific country. It was written for any country. Now in 1923, let's see, 1923, the words "Flag of the United States of America" were added. Now I'm sure it was added via our Congress or someone. They kind of adopted the pledge. This is the way it read then in 1923. "I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all." Now you notice the words "under God" aren't in there. Not in 1923. They weren't added then. So 1892, the United States wasn't in it. In 1923, United States got added, but "under God" wasn't added. And then in 1954, it says, "In response to the communist threat of the times, President Eisenhower encouraged the Congress to add the words 'under God,' creating a 31-word pledge. We say today." Bellamy's daughter objected to this alteration, and this is how the pledge reads today. "I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all." So that's the pledge as we read it today, and there's been more recent in times wrangling and controversy. And the controversy is usually from atheist groups or a person that will begin a lawsuit trying to remove anything about God out of a government atmosphere. So they wouldn't like the pledge, let's say, and when I say they, I mean a single person potentially may not like the pledge with the word "under God." It doesn't say which God, and when I say that, I'm not trying to be smart or be obnoxious. I'm saying it doesn't say whether it's under Allah or under Jehovah or under Yahweh or under Baal or under, what is the Hindu? Baal? Bali? Bali, I guess? Jesus? Or who else? I don't know. Leave comments if you can think of more than I mentioned. I mean, there's tons of different things that people worship, but it just kind of leaves it to the generic word God. Now, it is capitalized. So if you capitalize the word G-O-D in the United States, it usually means Yahweh, Jesus, or Jehovah. It usually means the Judeo-Christian God, not like Allah or some other God from a different religious belief. I just found it interesting that the document itself, or text of, not so much a document, but the theme of pledging your allegiance to a flag of a country, has evolved, and the United States adopted it for its own. And then the thing I found interesting was it said that President Eisenhower wanted the words "under God" added as a response to what was perceived the communist threat. You can remember, maybe if you're older, or maybe not, people talking about, the communist threat, the red commies, the this, the that. And a lot of that, of course, came about after World War II, during what was dubbed the Cold War, when the Russians, Soviets, the USSR, Soviet Union, not just Russians, but all the countries that conglomerated to make the Soviet Union, were trying to operate under the principle of communism. Everybody has a share. And of course, the Eastern or Western countries, we were operating under capitalism and different forms of government. So I'm assuming they were at least saying that under the communist rule that religion of this type wasn't really allowed. And one of the foundations of the U.S. government, being the Bill of Rights, was the First Amendment. Talked about religious freedom. Of course, it's free speech, it's free numerous things, but freedom of religion was part of it. Your ability to assemble with who you want, where you want. Now, to an extent where you want, you can't go on somebody else's land, but you can assemble together and talk about things that you feel are important, and no one should try to force you not to be able to voice your opinions and be heard. And so I guess the thought was that the communists were maybe, the ideology of communism would thwart the ability to have free exchange of ideas and religion and other things. And so that might have been the principal guiding focus behind adding the words "under God" to the Pledge of Allegiance. Am I saying it's a good thing or bad thing? No, not really. It's the way I learned it as a child, was it had the words "under God," and it never really gave it a lot of thought, whether it was an imperative or not. I always thought that the whole purpose of the pledge is you're pledging your allegiance daily. When you stood up and said that pledge every morning, you were, I guess you could call it being indoctrinated, but you were affirming your allegiance to your nation, to your country, and to the flag that represented your country. Of course, more recently, people will burn the flag, tread on the flag, stomp on the flag. And that came about where it happened more frequently after someone did it and got arrested for it. And it used to be, I think it's still written in the U.S. codes, that it's illegal to deface or defame a flag. However, the Supreme Court ruling that came about because of that case, and don't ask me who, when, where, I don't have a clue, but the Supreme Court said, that's protected speech. Burning an object can be construed as speech. And so burning the flag's okay. The thing that puzzles me more recently, though, is there's a lot of things that are becoming protected speech that aren't speech at all. if my actions, if I want to, let's say I want my freedom of speech to be that I'm protesting something, and my protest is going to be completely nude. I can go out in public then completely naked and nude, or whatever, in front of children and everyone else, just because I want to voice my opinion. And maybe my opinion, let's say I'm PETA, and I don't believe in wearing fur, so instead of wearing fur, I wear nothing to try to, for the shock value, to get my point across. Is that then protected speech? So are you more interested in protecting my speech, even though I'm not really speaking, I'm demonstrating with action, or are you willing to protect the other person that feels offended by nudity? Which, of course, being offended is a whole different topic, because it seems like America as a whole, we've become very thin-skinned lately, to where everyone's offended about everything. Maybe toughening up would be a good thing, where we're not as offended, or maybe we should just, as a group, maybe we could consider that even though we don't agree with someone else's idea, that we should agree it's their right to have that idea, to have that belief system, as long as they're not physically harming anyone else with it. When I say physically, I mean exactly that, physically hurting someone. You know, if your idea is different from mine, and the way you're going to voice your idea is to hit me in the head with a club, yeah, that shouldn't be allowed. I mean, and I should not be able to do that to you. But if my opinion is, I don't know, let's use the flag since I've got one here. Let's say person A's opinion is burning this flag is perfectly fine, and they don't think it should be a crime, so they burn the flag. Person B was, for what reason they chose, whether, I was going to say prior military, because most everybody in the military is taught reverence for the flag. We'll say person B holds the flag in very high regard and reveres that flag. It will seem absolutely atrocious to person B that person A is burning the flag. But if you think about it the other way around, unless that person's doing something physically to harm you, why would you touch that person? You know, one of the principles that I believe, and I've told many of my friends and coworkers and everyone that will listen to me, is I see your personal freedoms as this. As long as my personal freedom doesn't physically harm someone else. In other words, if I want to stand out in the field behind my house and stick my arms out with my fists clenched and spin around and round and round in circles, it should be perfectly fine for me to do that. Where it shouldn't be fine is when my spinning around and around, I move myself, I move to where you are, and spinning around, I'm going to hit you with my fist as I spin. Then it shouldn't be fine, because now I'm going to do harm to someone else. So my point is that laws and rules that apply to our freedoms should protect person B from person A, or person A from person B. They should never force me to accept an ideology or a thought or anything that I don't believe, or force me on the outside to portray that I have a set of beliefs because that's what a great deal of people think is acceptable. It's just my little tirade about Pledge of Allegiance, why I think maybe some of it came about, the changes to it, and what I think about how people should be treating each other. But if you disagree, leave your comments, because you don't have to agree with me. I don't have to agree with you. We can all agree to disagree. Have a great night.